His Excellency the President, distinguished Speaker of the Grand National Assembly, distinguished term President of PUIC, distinguished President and members of PUIC, distinguished participants, Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop, with his auspicious, our President, with the attendance of our President Recep Erdogan, we have gathered for the opening session of the 16th PUIC session, and I would like to welcome you all, distinguished participants. I do believe that our conference is going to be beneficial for the whole Islam geography, for our societies, for our rights, and by doing so, I would like to give the floor to in order for us to listen to the Quran citing.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا. وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها. كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. ولتكن وأولئك هم المفلحون. ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك لهم عذاب عظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل. إن الله نعم ما يعظكم به. إن الله كان سميعا بصيرا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وإلى أولي الأمر منكم. فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول. فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر. ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. صدق الله العظيم. الفاتحة.
Ayasofya-i Kebir Camii Şerifi baş
The Chief Imam, Tip Usluer, we thank him for his Quran reciting. One of the verses that he chanted was the 104th verse of the Baqarah, and it was the divine God orders that communities, societies order their people for the good practice. Hopefully, we will be one of those societies. Well, the theme of our conference is sharing conscience on Islam, Palestine, migration, and Afghanistan. In order to deliver the opening speech is the PUIC General Secretary Mohammed Qureshi Nias. We would like to invite him on stage.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
May God's mercy be upon you, distinguished President of the Turkish Republic, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, distinguished Speaker of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, Mustafa Şentop, distinguished speakers of the parliaments and members of the delegations, distinguished deputies of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, distinguished representatives of the diplomatic missions, may God's prosperity and mercy be upon you. With the grace of God, it is not obscure to you that the circumstances experienced by the world during the past 2 years are like which present generations have not seen because of this COVID-19 pandemic, which has raised honor in all places. Well, it impacted all us, but again, we were able to make it to Istanbul, the city of grace, culture, and civilization. Well, Turkish Republic President Recep Tayyip Erdogan attending this meeting in person displays the importance that Turkey attributes to PUIC, not only to PUIC, but to the issues of the entire Islam world. And in this respect, I, on behalf of you, on behalf of everybody, would like to thank the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan for his participation. And in order to ensure our very purposes, in order for the finalization of this conference to the best of our benefits, we will work hard. And in this respect, I also would like to thank distinguished Professor Mustafa Şentop. Because this conference was planned to take place in Tunisia, but we were not able to do that, and Turkey has hosted this very meeting. So in this respect, I would like to thank you for your hosting. Ladies and gentlemen, as I have mentioned, from December 2019 to December 2021, the whole world has experienced the latest circumstances, which we all know, which is due to Corona. The impacts of this have been hard for all of us, especially when concerning the least developed states, including the majority of Islamic states, have suffered much, despite the efforts exerted by their governments and parliaments to protect their peoples. Now, as there is a recovery from this pandemic, yet further solidarity is requested among the states of our union in order to alleviate its effects on the economy and growth, and for the sake of developing scientific research in collaboration between our Islamic states so as to enable us to possess the tools with which to remove the peril away from our peoples, particularly in the field of vaccines and combating epidemics and pandemics. Well, as you know, the headline, the theme of our conference is Sharing Conscience and Islam, Palestine, Migration and Afghanistan. Of course, immigration continues to be the main issue of our societies, and Palestine is going to remain on our agenda as well until an independent Palestine state is established with its capital Al-Quds. Well, the first meeting held by PUIC after the world moved to coexist with the COVID-19 pandemic was the Palestine Committee meeting in Tehran, with the attendance of Islamic parliaments on 24th of May 2021. This meeting affirmed support for all forms of resistance of the Palestine people against the Zionist entity, considered as a legitimate right until the realization of the national rights of the Palestinian people. At that very meeting also, it was stressed that action taken by the Palestinians is an exercise of their legitimate rights to self-defense and defense of their properties and homeland. So, the meeting called all Islamic countries to renounce differences, close ranks, and enhance the bonds of Islamic brotherhood in order to confront the fierce attack launched by the enemies of the Islamic Ummah, especially the Zionist entity, which is counting on and utilizing the current regional condition to ignite the fire of sedition and turmoil so as to distract the attention of the states of the region away from the grave violations of the rights of the Palestinian people. At the fourth meeting of this committee, the Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, His Excellency Professor Mustafa Şentop, proposed to convene the PUIC Standing Palestine Committee at the level of Parliament speakers in Istanbul, based on the fact that the Palestinian cause embodies the essence, meaning of the PUIC, and that the needs, necessities, addressing it in a well-studied manner and resolve at the highest levels. It is also a necessity series follow-up. And during the preparation of this meeting, the Grand National Assembly of Turkey has shown its readiness to host this conference, considered as the most important and the biggest of momentum. Ladies and gentlemen, Afghanistan and its people have suffered for a period of 20 years from foreign interventions and the resulting wars and seditions. Afghanistan needs its brothers in religion, especially its neighbors, in order to address many existing problems until it goes back to the way of stability and reconstruction. Millions of Muslims suffer severe conditions of migration and dispersion due to wars, conflicts, and seditions, as well as because of hunger and unemployment. It is painful to watch in this severe winter hundreds of thousands of Middle Eastern and South Asian people living in camps without the simplest means of livelihood and without protection from the cold or heat. It is also painful to watch tens of thousands of African youths, young people, being buffeted by waves in search of decent living, which they have not found in their homelands, and in many cases they end up as easy food for fish in high seas. Ladies and gentlemen, in Palestine, There are people suffering from injustice for more than 70 years in Afghanistan. There are people who need someone to stand by themselves during this hardship and who have to remain in refugee camps, because women, children and men, they deserve to be relieved from this misery. And people in high seas, young people, they also need our help. Our Prophet Muhammad also mentions that we are like the organs of a body, referring to the communities. If an organ fails, the whole body is impacted. So he refers to this religion was brought to us by the Master Muhammad, who said the believers in their compassion and mercy are like a single body. If one part of it is ill, the other parts of suffer sleeplessness and fever. Our conviction that cooperation, compassion, and brotherhood are enjoyed on us by the Creator of the universe, and they oblige us to be inspired by all of this in our behavior and embody them in our practice so as to be nearer to Almighty Allah. Well, thank you so very much for the speech. Now, in order to represent the Burkina Faso Parliament, I would like to invite Ogaro Suyaba.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Je voudrais vous livrer le discours de son Excellence.
So, I'd like to read the presentation by Their Excellency. As you well know, His Excellency the President of PUIC, Their Excellency the President of Turkey, esteemed members of Parliament, distinguished Secretary General of PUIC, esteemed guests, distinguished brothers and sisters. Finally, we are here convened for the 16th conference of PUIC. We are together, face to face, but as you well know, the COVID-19 pandemic continues around the globe, and at the same time there is a new variant called Omicron, which concerns the entire humanity. I would like to avail myself to congratulate my counterpart, Professor Mustafa Şentop, as well as all Turkish authorities who made this conference possible. My delegation and myself owe you gratitude because you have hosted us in this senior city, in this beautiful city of Istanbul, so beautifully. As you know, Istanbul is among the top tourist destinations around the globe. I'm addressing you with two hats today: the Speaker of the Parliament of Burkina Faso, and at the same time the 15th term President of PUIC. Esteemed colleagues, distinguished presidents, since the beginning of the 15th conference, I have been fighting against COVID-19, and as I come to the end of my term, unfortunately, we are still suffering the same issues regarding health around us, which means the health-related effects as well as the economic consequences are leading to severe limitations, such as the closing down of certain places, changes in organizations and institutions, etc. This is a brand new situation, which is very concerning. And I would like to make a call to our entire community. We do need an international approach that will go among our states and will be based on solidarity and the exchange of experiences. At the same time, governments require a higher degree of coordination, which means we need to mobilize all the tools and means that we have. This way, it will be possible to protect our peoples. It's certain that among our states we need a higher degree of cooperation. Only this way we can recover from the health and economic risks created by the COVID-19 pandemic and fight against such risks. The spread of the pandemic obligates us to act in solidarity, which solidarity sometimes may be misused by individual reflexes. And indeed, we see that in the production of the vaccines, some states were fighting by themselves, while other states were left alone in the face of COVID-19. Naturally, we were sometimes unable to remove egoistic or individualistic feelings, but we must do so. We need to learn a lesson. What matters is that we learn our lesson and focus more on solidarity and fraternity. In the name of the society that we have established, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to convey a message to those who are suffering, those who are infected, those who are harmed socially, ethically, economically. They should all be approached with mercy and solidarity, and that's my feelings for them. Esteemed members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, as I discussed earlier, our organization, in the face of this latest health crisis, was very badly impacted, which is why I failed to fulfill the requirements of some of my tasks. I couldn't travel, and some of my bilateral and multilateral relations could not continue on the same path. And I hope that the conference chair for the 16th conference, the new president, is going to be luckier than I am, because now science and medicine is giving us new hope, broadening new horizons. But declarations and organizations enable us to meet in Iran, where we can discuss about the crisis in Palestine. We had the chance to meet in Iran and have these discussions. In May 2020, like a sea between Israel and Palestine, on the Gaza Strip, there were conflicts, and naturally, it was not possible for our organization to make any reactions against such violence, which is why to the president of the Consultative Assembly of Iran, well, I would like to thank Mr. Gariba, because thanks to him, we were able to organize a meeting in Tehran on the 24th of May 2021, when around the globe, the COVID-19 pandemic was well spread. The subject matter of that meeting was key. What we discussed there had to do with the use of diplomacy, the use of parliamentarian skills in a way to support the people of Palestine. Because the people of Palestine have been suffering a genocide and the oppression of the Zionist strength. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary General, Mohammed Qureshi Niaz, the Secretary General, recently informed me about the meeting that was going to be organized in Turkey, and indeed, due to the spread of COVID-19, the conditions did not make it possible for us to hold this conference at the beginning of the year in Tunisia. Unfortunately, independently of the COVID-19 situation and against all the bona fides of the Representatives Assembly of Tunisia, this 16th conference was not held in Tunisia. So, due to geographical rotations and practices, after the African group comes the Asian group, which is why the parliaments of Asia had the right to organize the 16th conference in 2021, but Tunisia wanted to hold the event in their own country, and with the approval of the Asian group, the developments advanced, and perhaps in the future we would find ourselves in a challenging situation, which is why the Grand National Assembly of Turkey decided to organize this meeting in Turkey on behalf of the Asian group, and I approved this, and at the same time we discussed that the 17th conference would take place in Tunisia, and I agreed to this as well. Esteemed members of parliament, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when we look at the subject matter of today's conference, we see it's about sharing conscience, Islam, Palestine, migration, and Afghanistan. And for me, the most interesting one among these is sharing. Today, the evolution of the globe means that we must take action in order to protect the interests of the Islamic Ummah with new approaches. We need a much stronger cooperation among us. In Palestine and Afghanistan, there is crisis, and we must find out how we can extend humanitarian aid to the oppressed and victimized peoples. Honorable members of parliament, esteemed members of boards, distinguished sisters and brothers, before I end my words, I'd like to thank wholeheartedly the Secretary General of PUIC, because without exhaustion, without a stop, under the challenging conditions that we live in, he continued to carry out the PUIC activities actively. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone, esteemed Speaker of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, esteemed committees and commissions and their members. This is the last time I'm addressing you as the 16th term president of PUIC, but as a member of Troika, as the conditions allow me to, I'm going to continue to work with my colleagues in order to make sure that all the PUIC tasks are fulfilled. Our globe is full of challenges, and there are countries suffering security issues as well, such as Burkina Faso, the Sahel countries, where terrorist attacks are taking place non-stop. But my hope is that this 16th conference, which is about sharing conscience in Islam, Palestine, migration, and Afghanistan, will deliver sustainable pathways to settlement and solution, because these are difficulties that impact the entire world, and Palestine and Afghanistan and Kuwait require us to find long-term solutions from now on. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Mr. Waidrago Sayuba. Esteemed President, distinguished guests, the strongest values that will bring people together are the ones among and inside us Muslims, says the Speaker of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop, and I would like to invite him to the rostrum now. Thank you very much. In the name of Allah, the Merciful and Compassionate. Esteemed President, distinguished Speakers of Parliaments, Members of Parliament, esteemed Secretary General, distinguished guests, representing the Islamic world, Members of Parliaments and their members and participants, thank you very much for being with us in this senior and beautiful city of Istanbul. The subject of our conference is sharing conscience in Islam, Palestine, migration, and Afghanistan. The Parliamentary Union of the OIC member states is opening its 16th conference in this historic venue, and I would like to deeply salute you all. The discussions that we will have here, the views that we are going to share, hopefully will benefit our countries, our peoples, the Islamic Ummah, and the entire humanity. Bringing our countries together and giving our cooperation a parliamentarian dimension, PUIC, enables us to discuss the problems and challenges of the Islamic community, and it gives us a fruitful and fertile platform. When we consider the problems that are encountered in our region, we hope that PUIC becomes as active and as proactive as possible in the coming times. I am sure that we all agree on this necessity. Esteemed President and distinguished guests, history is flowing at a rate that was not unprecedented, that was unprecedented, and we are having changes in history where happenings that take place in one part of the globe are impacting another part of the globe in a way that never happened before, and economic models are being remodeled, and most importantly, humanity and our consciences are being tested at an unmatched level in these challenging times. The heaviest burden is on the shoulders of the Islamic Ummah, and the biggest cost, the most bitter cost, is being paid by the Islamic community. Anarchy, chaos, nature, climate, economy are all areas that are facing destruction that is going to impact the entire globe. And those who are doing this are the ones that claim that they're going to bring democracy and peace and welfare to the world, just like in Baqarah Surah in the Holy Quran 204 and 205. There are such people that make promises about the life on earth and you're surprised by them and you like them, but they are actually the strongest of enemies. And when they're talking, they pretend that God is the witness, but when they take over the strength, they're going to create anarchy on earth, and they're going to try to destroy the produce and the earth. And Allah does not like these bad intentions and actions. So this is a description of the current situation in the globe. Valuable guests, in our conference we discussed the Palestine and Jerusalem matters, as well as other problems that are faced in our region. This will only be possible by taking joint action, and we need to keep this on top of the agenda. Half a century has been left behind by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and based on the borders of 1967, a free with sovereignty Palestine state that has Jerusalem as its capital is our biggest fight still. Our solidarity in the Palestine case will continue, and it will be as strong as ever. And our first direction to turn to Masjid al-Aqsa is in the city of Jerusalem, which must be protected for the entire humanity, not only for the sake of Muslims. It's an important task for us to fulfill. Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and other countries are facing challenging situations, and we need a joint action against this. Islamic countries need to have their security and welfare contributed into by means of meeting humanitarian needs, as well as contributing to peace making among brothers and sisters that are having conflicts amongst them. So as PUIC, we need to take the lead role in this, and we need to have others accept this and agree to this approach as well. We also need to make sure that Rohingya people are, with their dignity, returned home, and we need to take action about the Western Thrace as well as Cyprus to protect the rights of people. This applies to the Uyghur Turks as well. Immigrants that have had to flee their countries need to be offered remedy, and we need to act in solidarity and cooperation for this. We need to have a joint voice in this. The entire world, and especially our region, is being impacted by immigration, and we need to resolve this issue without victimizing anyone. For this, we need to take joint action, and this is a requirement of being a Muslim as well as being a human. Muslim minorities and societies that live around the globe also are an important priority to us. Just prejudice, lack of tolerance against Muslims requires us to offer our support and attention to these brothers and sisters around the globe. And as PUIC, with this understanding in mind, we need to focus on the needs and demands and requirements of these brothers and sisters by using the right mechanisms as soon as possible. Valuable President, distinguished guests, as Muslims, we are brought together by values, elements that are much bigger than those that might cause any conflicts. When we look rationally against the causes of our togetherness, the causes for our conflicts are nothing to mention. It can be said that the strongest values that will bring people together globally are the ones amongst us Muslims and inside us as Muslims. But in the most strategic countries, with a population of 2 billion people almost, although we have great capacity and potential in terms of the economy globally, we are suffering from lack of strength and lack of solidarity. We need to think about this at length. Being together, acting in solidarity is going to yield financial and spiritual strength to us. We need to embrace the strength of Allah. When we are against each other, our strength will be gone. We are going to lose ground. We are going to lose our strength. Let's think about this. European countries in the first half of the 20th century had two world wars amongst them. They killed in total more than 100 million people. They destroyed each other's homes and economies and cities. Moreover, these European cities were in conflict and war for centuries, but after the second half of the 20th century, they made peace. They decided to bring to the forefront their common values and their common interests, and they started growing and gaining strength over a very short period of time. We, on the other hand, didn't kill each other or burn each other's homes during history in the past or today. We are not trying to find meaningful reasons to fight each other or to diverge from one another. Instead, we are brought together by the same prophet, by our history, by our faith. If we get together, we are going to gain humanitarian conditions for a more fair world, and we can engage in a stronger fight against, a world of injustice this way. Instead of looking at others' decisions and talks, we should act together and make our own decisions for our own interests. If we don't resolve our own problems, if we don't make our own decisions, then others will come to solve our problems, and they're going to put us in a circle of fire, and they're going to act in line with their own interests. Valuable President, distinguished guests, as I discussed earlier, the problems that we have require the current international orders to take better actions. The actions that they are taking today are unfortunately removed from solving any problems. Global actors are headed by organizations such as UN. Although they have taken many decisions regarding the matters that I discussed earlier, none of these has yielded a solution. A big example of this is from last year. The international society has been unable to resolve a problem that has been around for many years, the occupation of Karabakh, which is right around the corner. The Azerbaijani sisters and brothers had to end it themselves because there was no support. I would like to congratulate them for their fair and just and definite victory. Congratulations. So the international system and international organizations that are expected to hold it up need to be revised in line with the requirements, and as the Islamic world, we need to make a reassessment of our organizations and institutions. As I said during the beginning of my speech, the existing problems of the international system need to be reconsidered by enhancing our institutions. This is the only way. PUIC is not only an organization that brings together the heads and speakers of parliaments and doesn't only act as an effective diplomacy platform, but also should go beyond this in order to act as a joint consultation and advice board for the entire Islamic community that is permanent. And this is an idea that we should seriously consider. On the other hand, within the framework of our current structure, there are some urgent steps that we can take. Islamophobia, xenophobia, and racism are on the rise around the globe, but this situation is not only a pathological social case, but it's also part of government policies in some countries, which is why in PUIC, the non-member countries, Muslim minorities, suffering of violations of rights need to be monitored, and we need to collect applications and turn them into reports by establishing a special subcommittee. I think this will be the right step to take, and this step is going to be based on organizing a commission that is also independent and autonomous in the future, that has its own bylaw. I think it will be possible to convert it into such a structure. Valuable guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I end my words with these thoughts in mind, I would like to congratulate Burkina Faso for their successful term presidency, and I would like to promise that we will be in close cooperation with all the members during our term presidency, and I would like to express my gratitude and gratification over hosting you all in Istanbul, and hope that the 16th conference is going to be fruitful for our ummas and our peoples and the entire globe and humanity. And please pass our salutations to your countries and your peoples. May God's mercy and compassion be upon you all. Thank you very much. Speaker of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop, thank you very much for emphasizing these important values and delivering your speech.
Değerli konuklarımız,
distinguished guests, now we would like to invite the person who said the world is larger than five, the person who has been the hope of the victims, His Excellency President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. The floor is yours.
Buyurun.
Honorable speakers of Parliament, esteemed Secretary General, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. I greet you with my most heartfelt feelings and respect. I'm pleased to welcome you to our country to mark the 16th conference of the Parliamentary Union of the Member States of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. A city of civilization, history and culture, welcome to our beautiful Istanbul. Our Prophet awarded and heralded its request, so it is my honor to send my greetings and love to my brothers and sisters all over the Islamic geography through you from this sacred city. I pray to Allah that this conference be auspicious for our countries and the entire Islamic world. I find it just to the point that the main theme of this year's conference is sharing, conscience and Islam, Palestine, migration and Afghanistan. I also would like to express my gratitude personally and on behalf of my country and my people to all those involved in the organization of the conference. Dear brothers and sisters, we as Muslims consider life in this world as a test. In the Quran, be sure we will test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lies and fruits and products. But give good news to the patient. As humanity, we have been fighting a major pandemic that has cost more than 5 million lives so far in the last 2 years. During this difficult period, we lost many of our citizens, including our relatives, loved ones, members of the parliament, and former members of the parliament, including the members of the parliament who have served our country under the roof of our Grand National Assembly. I would like to take this opportunity to ask God's mercy for those who passed away and a speedy recovery for our patients. I also would like to express our condolences to our brothers and sisters who lost their lives in the member states. I ask God to save us, the Islamic world, and all humankind from the scourge of this virus as soon as possible. During the pandemic, our primary focus was on people's lives and values. From the first day, we have drawn attention to the importance of cooperation and solidarity in the fight against the pandemic in all international platforms we are members of. These calls have gone beyond being only words. And with our work, support, and the various relief activities, all of these have become a reality. Those who teach democracy, rights, law, and justice to humanity at every opportunity turned a deaf ear to dramas outside their borders, while we have shared all the means available to us with our friend and brother countries. We have been very sensitive about this. We have delivered aid to 160 countries and 12 international organizations in need. In addition, we have supplied vaccines to 11 countries. For our domestic vaccine, Turcovac, for our local vaccine, Turcovac, we have recently applied for emergency use approval. We closely follow the processes related to our local vaccine and hope to conclude it as soon as possible. Brothers and sisters, Al-Quds is a blessed city, as the Prophet entrusted to his community by saying, if you cannot visit and pray there, then send some oil to be used in the lamps there. So it's a blessed city. The Palestinian issue is one of the building blocks that led to establishing the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which brought us all together. The Al-Quds cause is not just a case of a handful of brave Muslims in Palestine. It is a case of courageous Muslims. Defending Al-Quds means defending humanity. It means protecting Al-Quds and upholding the right, law, peace, justice, and civilization. The purpose of the organization's existence is the Palestinian cause, and this cause remains at the top of our agenda. In the West Bank and Al-Quds, policies and unilateral practices that violate international law are increasing day by day. We see our Palestinian brothers and sisters being brutally executed in the middle of the street, and innocent Palestinian children being treated as if they are terrorists with blood on their hands. Harassment of our houses of worship has become more frequent. Likewise, the unjust, unlawful, and unscrupulous blockade of Gaza continues. Aiming to discourage Palestine from its just cause by leaving no room for Palestine to breathe, these policies have so far failed to achieve their goal thanks to the glorious resistance of our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Moreover, these policies have not helped the Israelis or the people in the region, except for a handful of fanatics. On the contrary, due to these policies, normalization efforts in the region have always failed and anti-Semitism has increased. I believe that everyone is aware of these facts at this stage. Insisting on occupation, violence, and apartheid policies is no longer of any use to anyone. In the Second World War, the genocide against the Jews in Europe and making the Palestinians pay for it is unfair and unscrupulous. I said it before, but I want to reiterate it again today. We have never discriminated between pain and death and we still do not. As the image of Muhammad Dura, who was martyred while taking shelter behind his father's back, breaks our hearts, so does the story of Anne Frank. In any case, we never accept the marginalization or making enemies of people or people of the same faith. No matter from whom that persecution comes, our faith and humanity require to stand against the oppressed and to hold their hands. As descendants of an ancestor who ruled Al-Quds with justice for 400 years, we do not want to see blood, tears, and persecution in Palestine. 5 centuries ago, we opened our doors to Jews who fled Spain. So, as a nation, our greatest goal is to establish peace and stability in Palestine. The way to do that is, as we express it at every opportunity, the establishment of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state which enjoys territorial integrity according to the borders of 1967, with Al-Quds as its capital. With this understanding, we remain sensitive to the status of East Al-Quds and the sanctity of Masjid al-Aqsa. Between 2016 and 2019, we hosted 2 extra summits on Palestine during our summit term presidency of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. In this way, we mobilized the United Nations, our organization, and other international platforms. In the upcoming period, the common steps that we will take together will again determine strengthening of the climate of peace in our region. As member states, we must act in unity and solidarity and refrain from any actions that would undermine the Palestinian cause. Despite all obstacles and shortcomings in the international system, we must continue our efforts to bring the Palestinian cause to its rightful place on the world agenda and to find a fair solution to the issue. On the other hand, the Palestinians need to bring an end to discord, and this is very important to achieve success in the work carried out. The tensions, resentments, and disagreements between our Palestinian brothers and sisters are most pleasing to other people. We expect our Palestinian brothers and sisters to strengthen their unity and solidarity and support in this process. Dear participants, brothers and sisters, it's our common hope that Afghanistan will achieve lasting peace and stability. We cannot afford to turn our backs on the Afghan people or close our eyes to the humanitarian drama in this country, especially given the current challenging winter conditions. It is a priority that the humanitarian aid to our Afghan brothers and sisters continues. We provide our best support and assistance to Afghanistan and our Afghan brothers and sisters, with whom we share deep-rooted relations. Of course, there are issues that we do not like or we disapprove of, especially with respect to the concept of inclusion in the ongoing political process. We communicate our advices and ideas and criticisms in this regard very clearly to their addressees through our institutions. We continue to work hard to ensure that Afghanistan is not in chaos and conflict again. Whatever we do aims to bring peace, stability, and well-being to all brother countries in the region and in Afghanistan, especially with respect to the delivery of humanitarian aid. The Islamic world needs to be more in solidarity on this issue. We know that the developments in Afghanistan increase the risk of an influx of migrants, including 3.6 million from Syria. Our country is currently home to approximately 5 million foreigners, and Turkey cannot bear a new migration burden. We know that similar challenges apply to other countries that are members of the organization. In fact, the real burden on migration and refugees is not shouldered by the very loud countries, but rather the countries like us that are neighboring crisis zones. According to UN figures, countries on low income host 2.7 refugees per 1,000 people, whereas 5.8 refugees in middle and low income countries. The poorest countries are home to a third of all refugees globally. The Syrian crisis is truly exemplary in terms of Western countries' discriminatory, exclusionary, and inhumane attitudes towards refugees. This crisis, which is now in its 10th year, has seen the Western world always playing three monkeys. The dramas of Umran and Aylan babies broke all of our hearts, but they were the ones who did not show any interest. They have not taken any steps to ease the burden on millions of people in northern Syria. In fact, they did not hesitate to support terrorist organizations such as PKK and YPG under the cover of the fight against Daesh. They have not fulfilled a significant part of their promises to help our country so far. If nearly 1 million people have died in Syria to date and 12 million people have been forced to leave their homes to date, it's not only because of the regime's attacks and terrorist organizations' attacks, but also because of the hypocrisy of the Western world. The rights granted by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which celebrates the 73rd anniversary this year, have not been granted to Syrians for 10 years. The Security Council of the United Nations has also become a great source of disappointment, failing to fulfill its responsibilities in this Syria crisis. Our innocent Syrian brothers and sisters have paid the bill for both the unscrupulousness of the countries and the failure of the international system. Dear members of the parliament, as Muslims, we're not only fighting coronavirus or humanitarian crises, but also rising Islamophobia. Muslims, especially Muslim women, are victims of racist and discriminatory policies in many countries worldwide. Today, many Western countries that advocate democracy and human rights are also enslaved by hate speech, politics, and daily life. Almost every day, we hear on the street, at work, at school, on the bus, in the marketplace, we hear about a citizen, a Muslim sister, attacked by racists. Instead of tackling these sickening currents that poison the society, European politicians are further agitating and embracing rhetoric targeting Muslims and migrants. 35 million Muslims of different backgrounds live in Europe, and we cannot allow Europe to become a concentration camp for our brothers and sisters. As the organization, we must take more decisive steps to combat Islamophobia and hate speech. In this regard, we must take action side by side with our brothers and sisters of the same religion, but also with Jews who have experienced similar atrocities before, as well as immigrants who have been subjected to xenophobia, and Christians who look at issues from the perspective of reason and conscience. We can be different from one another, and we may not share the same view. However, our duty is to grow the ranks when it comes to peace and tranquility of all humankind. I believe that with your efforts, with your sincere efforts and prayers, I believe that the future of the Ummah will be much better and much more prosperous than today. I say, may Allah help us all. As I end my words with these thoughts, I would like to express once again how happy we are to host you in our ancient city of Istanbul. I hope that the exchange of views at this conference will prove to be auspicious for our countries and the entire Islamic world. Thank you, and may Allah protect you all. We would like to thank His Excellency President Erdogan for addressing this exclusive gathering. Now, for a family photo, I would like to invite speakers of the Parliament and Vice Presidents on stage for a family photo.
Değerli konuklarımız, aile fotoğrafından hemen sonra rehberlerimiz eşliğinde Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Cumhurbaşkanlığı Milli Sayılarla Resim Müzesi'ni misafirlerimizle birlikte ziyaret edeceğiz. Bilgilerinize sunuyorum. Programımızdan hemen sonra Milli Saraylar Resim Müzesi'ni rehberlerimiz eşliğinde ziyaret edeceğiz.
After our program, we will be visiting the National Museum, National Palaces Museum. Distinguished guests, with the auspices of our Professor Dr. Mustafa Şentop, we've organized our meeting, and we would like to extend our gratitude to our President Recep Tayyip Erdogan for honoring us with their participation, and we thank you for your participation as well, and wish you a nice day. Now we will be visiting the National Palaces Museum after this very program.